Welcome, everyone, to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, and with me today is my esteemed guest, Amy Weiss. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about this podcast.
Thank you. And I'm so glad that you're on the show today, hearing your story and the journey that you've been on in building not just one business, not just two businesses, but three businesses and more. And so I'm so thrilled to hear about it and have you share that with our listeners. So let's jump right in. Let's start with, did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Was starting a business always something that you knew you wanted to do, or did it just develop?
Definitely not. I grew up in, the traditional rich dad, poor dad situation where everybody in my family has always had a job. You grow up, you go to school, you get good grades, you try to find a good job. You try to get paid enough and live a good life and have the house and the things that you need. And that's pretty much it. So I had no idea. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, though. I've always had the spirit of an inventor. I've always been a creator. I've always carried around a little notebook of ideas. I would sketch things in. I always tell people like Pinterest was my idea first. Doesn't matter because, I didn't execute it. Ideas are cheap, right? But yeah, so I've always liked to create. I've liked that process. And while I was in the military, I had a nonprofit fitness organization. I started selling on Amazon just as a hobby when it's like 2007, but you can't really call those businesses. Like looking back now, now seeing how much I've grown as a business owner, I don't really consider that as being businesses, more of like self-employed kind of little side hustle things. But yeah, I had no idea. It kind of just happened. In fact, when I realized I needed to quit my job, I was working in cybersecurity for the Air Force. And when I realized I needed to quit my job, it was a kind of an aha moment for me. I was like, oh, it hadn't occurred to me. I just thought I could just launch a product and still keep working at my very demanding, day job. And yeah, so it's been a true growing experience for sure.
So talk about that for just a second, because you mentioned the Air Force and you did serve in the military, and thank you for that. And we chatted about that recently when we were together at a retreat, which was fantastic. So that was kind of your first career, if you will.
Well, I've been working. I was raised by a single mom, and I've been working since I was like 7 years old. So my parents divorced when I was like 5. I think I was 4, or maybe 5. I don't remember exactly. It was around there. And we didn't have any money at the time. My mom was a single mom, and she didn't have a job when my parents divorced. And so we actually started a craft business. My mom's friend had a craft business, and so we kind of learned the skills from her. And so I started crafting and going to these crafting shows at a very, very young age. And then I started a paper route at 7 years old with my older brother. And then by 9 years old, I was actually babysitting full time for a toddler in my neighborhood all summer long. And so, I've always worked. And then, after that, my first W-2 job was McDonald's. I started as just a regular person working at McDonald's, cashier, that kind of thing at 14 years of age. And I very quickly moved up to crew chief position where, you're running the whole shift, you're managing everybody. McDonald's taught me so much. Their systems are amazing. I love systems. And, I worked there for years. I know how to do everything at a McDonald's, like from breakfast all the way to lunch and the dinner and closing and opening. And, I can make a Big Mac with my eyes closed, but that's the beauty of systems. And so I learned that from McDonald's. And then I started working I was going to college, trying to pay for my own college. And I started working at Target. I started as a cashier, ended as an executive at Target, and was running one of their garden centers in California. It was one of the largest garden centers that Target has. And then I started working for a horticulture company that provides all the plants to Lowe's, Kmart, Home Depot. I learned Excel, I learned accounting from that. And then from there, that catapulted me into an accounting career for a home healthcare agency. And I was only 19 years old at that point. I had so much business experience and work experience by that point in my life. And at that point, I joined the military because I realized, there's no way that I'm going to be able to pay for my school. There's no way that I'm going to move up in any of these careers. And I really wanted to travel. I really wanted to get out. So I joined the Air Force at 19 years old, or actually 20 years old is when I entered. And I was in boot camp when I turned 21. Yeah, it was crazy. And I was in the military for 18 years and met my husband. And, we have two children, and, it's been a wild ride. And so I retired in 2018. And you went full-time e-commerce and full-time entrepreneur from there.
Wow. So really, you have had that entrepreneurial spirit from the beginning. It sounds like at, such a young age, you were involved with your mom and in crafting, really growing a business right from the start. That to me sounds like you had that, knowledge to just really run with what you decided to do after you retired. So tell us a little bit more about that. You were sort of running and selling a product and working at the same time, and then decided, I'm going to just do this full time. So tell us more about it.
Yeah. So I think, really my working from a young age was not entrepreneurial at all. It was out of necessity. We didn't have any money. So, you have to hustle and do whatever you can do. So, that was really out of just the need to take care of family and to survive, that survival instinct. I do think it translates well to an entrepreneurial spirit now, as far as grit and not giving up and knowing you can figure anything out, not waiting for someone else's formula, just going for it, starting somewhere, having amazing work ethic. I mean, I think all of those qualities can be really helpful in business. But to answer your question, I had no intention of doing this. I had no intention of deciding to retire and start. I thought I would, be with the military until I, was 60 years old or whatever retirement age. And then, I had no idea, but I've always had that sketch something, figure something out. I liked creating on the side, so I had a problem. I didn't like cleaning the cat litter box. I don't think anyone does. And I actually have chronic severe migraines. It means I get 15 or more migraines a month. One of my triggers is smells, and my cat's litter box was causing me to get migraines all the time. And we were cleaning it constantly. And I didn't want to get rid of my cats. I have 3 cats and I didn't want to have to rehome them. They bring me so much joy. And I was like, you know what? There has to be a better way. I had tried all of these different things. So every time I would travel with the military, I was gone 10 months out of the year in my cybersecurity career. So every time I travel and I'd be in a hotel and kind of have time by myself, I would sketch a better litter box, and none of them worked. I would get to the end of the sketch, and this is the beginning of anyone's idea phase, right? Just sketch it, see if you can make it work in your sketch, right? You don't have to be an artist, just figure it out, right? So I'm sketching these things and I'm like, man, it doesn't make any sense. This is the same, too much like something else that I've tried. And I was back home one day and I woke up like at 2:00 in the morning and just like, oh my gosh, that's it. Like the litter box is actually the problem. Like I keep trying to create a better litter box, but that's not what the answer is. It needs to be a separate device to make it really easy to clean. So I woke up, started ripping apart a laundry bin, started like trying to, making a total mess in my house at 2:00 in the morning. And then as soon as Home Depot opened, I was like, I have something here. I have to finish this idea. And so, I go to Home Depot and I'm all secretive with the poor old man who's helping me, thinking he's going to steal my idea or something, and he's like, what are you building? And I'm like, I can't tell you, but it's just, anyway. So, I built my prototype that day out of hardware mesh and a bin, like a waste bin, and a little wooden frame, and I dumped the litter box into it, and man, it worked well. Like, it was incredible. And I was like, man, this is so easy. I have something here. This is really great. And that's when I kind of got the bug of like, I wonder if I could do something with this, right? Started looking it up, seeing if I could patent it. I went on upcounsel.com and found a patent attorney. Just started, trying different things. And I'm a very educated woman. During my career in the Air Force, I went to school full time while I was in the Air Force. And I now have 5 college degrees and 2 master's degrees, an MBA, as well as a Master of Science in cybersecurity. So I'm a very educated woman. I'm the type of woman that doesn't quit. I'm the type of woman that has an incredible work ethic. And for me, I got very frustrated, Desiree, because I didn't understand why it was so hard to take a product from a prototype and put it on the market. Mm-hmm. And I would reach out to all of these companies, that supposedly help with design. I tried out for Shark Tank season 18. Like, everybody wanted $30,000 or more to take my drawing and turn it into another drawing. And I was like, this can't be this hard. This can't be the answer. Like, I'm not accepting this answer. This isn't it. There's too many people like me who are smart, who have ideas, and they can't be running into these roadblocks, right? So it made me mad, and that fueled me. And I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And when I do, I'm going to share it with everybody who will listen, because I want to help and I want to bring this product to market. But not only that, I want to help other people who have these same roadblocks that me, a very educated woman who doesn't get intimidated by much, right, is running into. And that's how it started. I never intended to have a consulting firm. I just started by, how can I figure this out? How can I bring this product to market? Because it works so well, and I never want to scoop another litter box again. And how can I help other people along the way? And everything else just kind of happened after that.
Yeah. So it sounds like you had a need and you found a way to fill that need, and not just for yourself, but for a lot of other people who have that same need, right? I know growing up, we had cats. That is not fun in any way. We enjoyed the cats. You're absolutely right. They bring us so much joy, but that part of it is the least favorite thing, right? So that's amazing. And I love your sign behind you, amazing at home. And what you're doing is amazing, because my gosh, I had no idea that you had so many college degrees. That's phenomenal. And you're right. It does take oomph, grit, determination, that I'm not going to give up. I'm going to get my answer and figure out how to make this work. And I think that's why, you've been so successful so far, is not giving up. And that's awesome. I love it. So talk about your consulting business a little bit. What are you doing with that? And who are you consulting with?
Yeah. So in the beginning, when I first started sharing, I would just go live in a Facebook group. I would go live on YouTube. I would post on social media. Hey guys, this is what I figured out today, and I started kind of developing a following. And the other thing was, my molds for my product were very expensive. They were like $42,000. I lived from a place of, like, I never want to be in debt. I always, I'm a saver, mattress money kind of person. And so I was like, I really need to pay off these molds, because I don't want to launch my product and then go, into deeper debt, because, I'm not making enough to pay off these molds. So being in cybersecurity and being pretty good at figuring things out, I got pretty good at search engine optimization, SEO, because SEO is essentially hacking the search engine, right? Like, understanding how to optimize copy for search is very much like hacking. So we started doing like wholesale on Amazon, where we would buy products and sell them online. And this was all kind of in preparation for like launching the private label brand. because we're like, how can we learn? Amazon had changed a lot since I started in 2007 as a hobby, And so I was like, man, I got to learn this. Like, let's try these different business models. We had some friends doing retail arbitrage, stuff like that. We're like, we're going to try it all. We're going to do retail arbitrage. We're going to do. So, I'm trying to pay off these molds. And I started with wholesale. I started writing my own listings. I would make multi-packs, stuff like that. I'd write my own listings and I would do really well. Like, I really figured out this SEO stuff. And I'm like, man, I'm good at this, So then in the beginning, I started hiring people to write my listings for me. But then I was like, man, I'm good at this. I can do this much better. And so I was like, I thought I could make some money writing listings for people. So I started posting on Fiverr that I could write listings for people to pay off these molds, right? And I would take people's really saturated products and I would just rewrite their listing to sell them in a new category or under new keywords. So for example, if you were selling a felt letterboard, and that was really saturated at the time, I would sell it as an office sign. I would rewrite your whole listing. It's an office sign. There's an opportunity here. Nobody's selling this. This is a great receptionist sign, right? So I would reword the whole listing. And then what Amazon does is it re-indexes that copy and puts you in a new category. And all of a sudden you have no competition and you're in front of the customer looking for your solution. So, I would write these listings and people would be like, how did you do that? This is like the fourth person that I've had write my listing. And finally I'm selling out of this product. And I thought it was a lost cause. And they would ask me to consult with them. And I'm like, I don't do that. I was still working full-time at my job. I was like, I don't do that. And people kept asking and kept asking and kept asking. I kept turning around listings for people. And, and finally I was like, fine, $50, meet me on Google Hangouts, whatever, right? Like, I'll help you with some stuff on Amazon, Well, I apparently was very good at that. And people really liked having the help and they kept spreading the word. Many of my clients, they grew very quickly to like 6 figures in a month. And they started saying, sorry, Amy, but I told other people about you, So here I am still working at my full-time job for the Air Force. And I would come home from work and I was running my private label too, like still launching products, like getting all this stuff done, ordering new products from China, learning importing. And then at the same time, I'm helping all these people with the operations of their business, of their Amazon stores, right? And writing listings and doing all this stuff. And I would come home from work and I would be on coaching calls, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and it was just, it got insane. And pretty soon I started taking like 2 weeks of leave at a time from work because I'd be like, okay, I got to catch up. And I would still be a month behind. And finally I had a friend through church who said, Amy, you have to quit your job. He was an entrepreneur, Efton, and he was like, you have to quit your job. And it just had never occurred to me to quit my job. I was like, no, you don't understand, Efton. I pay the bills. I have a mortgage. I can't just quit my job. And he was like, didn't you say you're like turning down clients? And I was like, yeah, but I pay the mortgage. And he was like, yeah, but what do you think would happen if you actually focused on this like full time and you didn't turn down clients and you grew it? And I was like, I'm afraid you don't understand. Yeah. I pay the mortgage.
Yeah.
And so he helped me quit. He helped me develop a plan, figure out how to leave my job. And he came around right at the right time. And it was a huge leap of faith for me. And I left my job and went right into 2 businesses. And so that's how Amazing at Home started. And it's funny because I bought this domain name because I was going to do like a YouTube vlog thing and like featuring people being amazing at home. But I got so many Fiverr orders that I started, with the consulting and everything that I was like, okay, I'll just build a website because this is crazy. And the Fiverr fees are really high. And now I have all these people reaching out to me. So I'll just build a website. So it had this domain name, Amazing at Home. And I just used it to build the website over the weekend. And now it's, we're rated by Amazon sellers as one of the top 3 consulting companies in the world. So that's pretty exciting, but yeah, no intention of calling this Amazing at Home from the start.
Got it. Well, thank you for sharing the detail of how that came about. And oh my gosh, right. we grow up with a kind of mindset that has just been in place for such a long time. Like you have to just get the job and then you get the house and it's the white picket fence and whatever. And that's just what you do until you retire. And it's not that way anymore, right? We have all figured out that there's so many different ways that we can live our lives, have careers. They don't have to be that, traditional sort of plan that was in place before that everybody just did, and you really have just run with that. That's fantastic. But I could see how it would be pretty scary initially. I have the security of this job and it pays my bills. I don't know if the security is going to be there with this other stuff. And it's amazing that you did it. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I can't imagine, I think all of us as entrepreneurs, we reach a point when we do go full-time on our own, we reach a point where we realize that we've done it. And then also in that moment, we realize we can never go back. And I remember I was driving my car. I started actually teaching classes at, I started on my lunch hour going to the Small Business Association classes at the Small Business Development Center. And I quickly outgrew them. And then I started teaching for them at Launch San Antonio and some of the other business organizations around here. I wanted to give back, I'll never forget. I was driving home from a launch class. I was like, I just had this moment of, oh my gosh, I've made it. I can never go back. Everything has changed. I've reached, I don't know if to call it a threshold or just kind of, I've crossed over, right? And that was a really cool moment to just reflect on, because I think a lot of us, when we go full-time into business, like we don't know how to pay ourselves in the beginning. We don't know how to hire our first employee. We can't even imagine someone else, doing something for us and us trusting them. Even if you managed people, for me, like I managed teams in the military. I was an operations officer for cyber squadron, and so I had immense responsibilities and a lot of experience and a lot of education. And it's different when it's your business. It's different when you're the one making all the decisions. It's not the same. So yeah, I think that was such a unique moment. And now as a consultant, I get to hold people's hands as they make some of the scariest decisions of their life. They put their whole livelihoods, they're making those leaps. And it's nice to be able to tell them, hey guys, I know this is hard right now. I know it's scary, but the grass is green over here, I promise. And we're going to get there.
I love it. And I was going to ask you to just speak a little bit about that, like that initial hiring of people. At what point did you just say like, okay, that's it? Because you've done a lot and a lot of things all at once. And what was the turning point for you where you said, okay, that's it. I've got to have some help?
Well, I'm an avid reader, I listen to a lot of podcasts, I read a lot, and, I'm very educated and I always try to learn more. And I guess I realized, I was reading some of Mike Michalowicz's books and, like The Pumpkin Plan, and he has one, Clockwork. That one was really impactful for me in the beginning. I realized, I can't get out of being self-employed. I can't be a business owner if I'm always doing all the work in the business. I have to grow beyond this. And so I tried to just come up with a plan to start outsourcing some things. And I followed some of the guidance in the books. And I actually, my third business that I started was a China sourcing trip company. So I started taking people to China and teaching them how to walk the floors with manufacturers, teaching them how to source products, how to negotiate, how to import, how to do product development, all of that kind of stuff. I would be gone to China for a month at a time. And, have these entrepreneurs from around the world meeting me there. And, that alone was one of those moments where I was just like, in the penthouse suite at the top of this hotel in Guangzhou and going, oh my gosh, this is my life. Like, how did I even get here? I have no idea, but I'm so grateful. And and I realized like, I need to be able, if I really want to keep doing this, if I want to keep having an impact, if I want to keep, practicing my unique spark of the divine and helping others on this journey, I cannot be tied to the business. I have to be able to get out of it. Right. So I started by just hiring my first person, hiring my secondhand person that, could help me with listings, because I was still writing listings. I was still consulting. I was still running my private label brand, hired a few people in the private label brand just to help with, same thing, administrative stuff, social media, that kind of stuff. And yeah, so that was what made me do that, is just realizing that if I ever wanted to grow, I had to get past this barrier and I had to trust people, and then surrounding myself with people who were stronger than me, who were better than me, who could, push me in that direction. And, oh, wow, you have how many people working for you? What can I learn from you? Starting my own podcast where I had somebody awesome on every week and was just learning and soaking it up and trying to apply that. So yeah, that's how I started it. And now I have, 12 people in the Philippines that work for me, and they're an amazing team. They're awesome. I love them. I do a lot of consulting for big companies now. And, my team comes with me and we just, we fix things, and it's beautiful. So I can't imagine doing it without a team. I went on a trip to Peru for a whole week and I didn't even bring my laptop. And I was just like, this is what it's like to be a business owner. This is beautiful.
Awesome. And you brought up a really great point, is that people spend so much time working in their business instead of on their business. That makes the difference, right? When you're trying to do all those daily little tiny tasks that really you've totally outgrown and you should not be doing them, you've got to look at the bigger picture, right? And be working on those bigger picture items. I think that kind of is that turning point, right? Where you just say, somebody else could probably be doing this, right?
Yeah. And everybody has their little magic sauce that they just love. Like, I still love SEO and I still love, writing. There's other things that I love even more. And so what I did is, I tracked my time for a week. And I do this every once in a while when I start to get busy in my businesses again, because I started a new Mexico sourcing business, and that has required me to work a lot in the business. When you're first starting, you got to develop those processes. You've got to figure things out, as the owner, you're kind of wearing all the hats in the beginning. And then you're like, okay, I think I could lead someone else through this now. It's so important to track your time every once in a while. And so for me, I wrote down all of my response. I tracked my time for a week. And the way that I do time tracking is I'll write down the task. I'll write down the description of the task. I'll write down how much time I spent to do it. And then I'll write down whose job is it? Is it mine, or am I doing somebody else's job? Right. And then the most important things is I say, is this outsourceable, and to who? And to who is to what position? So should a social media manager be doing this? Should an administrative assistant be doing this? And what I did at the end of that is, you can sort by how much time you spent and who it's outsourceable to. And then you have a job description for your first hire. And the other thing that I did is I wrote down my big goals, the big things that I wanted to grow, and I put them in what I call a parking lot. I was a war planner in the military. So, planning comes very easy to me. I'm used to planning. I'm used to managing operations and that systems and that kind of stuff, and leading teams through things. So, I'm always planning, and that's a big part of my success, is because I'm always like, every month I plan, every week I do my weekly planning, every quarter, every year. And so over here on my whiteboard in the parking lot, which is where you put things that are not immediately part of your plan, but you want to save for later, I had all these things that, like I wanted to just do workshops and travel. I wanted to just do speaking. I wanted to have a content team. I wanted to have a marketing team. I want to get into venture capital. So I got all these things here, and everything, I have met all of them, except for venture capital, which I'm working on right now. I'm growing in the way there, but all the things that I wanted to do, I looked at my list of things, and I was like, I just want to create content, like, as like this right now, and I just want to host workshops and events, and I just want to travel. That's all I want to do. And so I went from doing all my own social media, doing all my own writing, doing all my own email email checking, and I just slowly started like, okay, I can hire a social media manager. I'm doing it right now, so I can teach somebody else to do it. Right. And I just started hiring those things out. And now when I look at that parking lot and I go, wow, look how far I've come, I've made it to where I'm living the life that I want to live. And, and I'm enabling somebody else that has that loves doing social media and loves doing, copywriting. I'm not only teaching them a new process and growing them, but I'm allowing them to do something that they enjoy. And there's a lot of fulfillment that comes from that.
Yeah, for sure. Such a great point too, is that planning, because I think a lot of times we tend to do things just like, because we have to get them done. It's like on the fly. There's no forethought. What a difference it makes when you're planning those things out, because then you have actual trackable, measurable goals that you're reaching and not just, running around just trying to get everything done. Right. That's an excellent point.
And I have a planning system that I use, and I actually teach this to my clients in my mastermind group. And people have really said that it's changed their productivity levels and, the way that they run their businesses. And I really simplify planning because, a lot of people get intimidated by planning because, we read all these things. You got to write SMART goals. It has to be specific and measurable and okay. But if you're not ready to put a timeline on that and you're not ready to just write down the top 3 things that you want to get done this month. What are your top 3 priorities this month? Write down those. And then for each of those top 3 priorities, write a to-do list, a basic to-do list. Just, okay, I want to launch a new product. What's your basic to-do list? If I want to launch a new product in the next 3 months, right? Obviously you're probably not going to get that done this month. Okay, I guess I need to do some product research. Okay, cool. What else do I need to do? I need to validate my product. After that, I need to then work on some sourcing to source the product. Now I've written down 3 things, that I need to do to meet that goal. And then I can put a date on that basic to-do list. So that's kind of the process that we run people through. At the end of the month, the last week of the month in our mastermind group, what we do is we get together and I run a planning session, and everybody, all the entrepreneurs, they come and I say, get a piece of paper out. Here we go, guys. Write down your top 3 goals, right? What are you doing this month? Where I don't care about measurable. I don't care about, just throw that out the window. Just tell me what you want to get done. What do you want to get done this month? Okay, cool. Now put those in priorities. What's your number 1 priority? What's the one thing out of those 3 that you have to get done? Okay, what's number 2? What's number 3? Great. Okay, now take number 1, write your basic to-do list. Cool. 3 or 4 or 5 things max. We're not making a huge to-do list. We're just kind of breaking it down. And then, so we do that for all 3 of our top goals. And then all we do is apply a week number. So we go, okay, I've got 4 weeks in a month. So what on my to-do list am I going to get done in week 1 to 2? Okay. If I'm launching a product, I need to set up my pay-per-click advertising. Okay, that's probably going to take me, I could do that during week 1. Okay. And then I need to send the product into Amazon. Oh, that's week 1. Never mind. PPC is week 2, right? So you've got your little to-do list. You put your week numbers next to it. And then what I tell everybody to do is now we're going to go over to our calendar and we're going to stack these things on a Monday of that week. So for our 3 priorities, we just stack all of our week 1 stuff on that Monday. And then what do we do the previous Friday or the first thing that Monday morning? We just go, okay, this week I've got these 3 priorities from my goals. That way, you can go, all right, I'm going to chunk out 3 hours to set up my PPC on Tuesday. I've got some time in my schedule, right? So we chunk out our time, we figure out when we're going to get those things done. And then at the end of the month, on our next planning session, we get to celebrate how far we've come. And it's awesome. And that way you don't feel like you're just always putting out fires, because if you don't plan, if you don't take your time to just really, this is what's important to me, nothing's important to you. And you're stressed out all day and you're just constantly putting out fires. When you set goals, it allows you to sleep at night. It allows you to really say no to things that aren't important and are not in alignment with your goals, right? And it allows you to celebrate, and that motivates you to get the next thing done and the next thing done. So if I could give people one piece of advice that will make the biggest difference, anytime I feel stressed out, I stop everything and I plan, because it means that I don't have a plan. And And planning doesn't have to be this, you don't have to write a book, just keep it simple.
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic advice. Thank you for sharing. You mentioned earlier a few books that were important to you. And if you wouldn't mind sharing those with us again, and then if there's any other books that you want to share or podcasts that you're listening to that you think are beneficial for our listeners, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. So I think that, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, of course, was a really important book for me. It really changed my mindset about what was possible. And then after that, I read The Cash Flow Quadrant. And that helped me realize that if I don't build assets, I'll be working for the rest of my life. And it really helped me understand that. So those two books were really good for initial mindset for entrepreneurship and realizing this is how you actually do pull off becoming rich, right? By building these assets. And this is how you can do it, whether you're working and saving money from that and investing, or whether you have your own businesses. But those two books were really fundamental. And then I would say two books that were really important in helping me grow as a business owner and helping me become a business owner, go from self-employed to business owner, were Clockwork by Michael Michalowicz, and also The E-Myth Revisited. I forget who wrote The E-Myth, but that book is incredible because it gives you concrete examples of how you will never scale your business if you don't build systems and hire people. And it gives you examples of all these different types of businesses that, it helps you just understand, wow, okay, I've got to fix that. So Clockwork was great for me to hire my first employee and start thinking about systems in my businesses. But the E-Myth was like the come to Jesus meeting, okay, wow, okay, yeah. And then two books psychologically that and mental health wise that have made an incredible difference in my life. Spiritually, I would say, in helping you just choose to live your best life, are the first one was called The Inner Work, and that's by Matt and Ash, and it's The Inner Work, Lasting Invitation to Freedom and Happiness. And that book was just a really beautiful book for me. And then the second one that was just huge in my spiritual and personal growth journey was it's an audio book, and it's called Living from a Place of Surrender by Michael Singer. That book is probably one of the most impactful books that I've ever read in my life, or listened to, because it's kind of it's read by the author, and he just does a great job of helping you realize that you don't have to live up to anybody else's standards. You can just enjoy the journey.
Those are fantastic recommendations. Thank you so much for sharing those. And we did chat just a little bit before we started the show about the holidays coming up. So I think the book that you just mentioned probably helps a little bit with that, where we place so many expectations on ourselves around the holiday season and what we think needs to be done and how we think we should be doing things. It sounds like maybe that one's a good one to help let go of some of those expectations that we place on ourselves.
Yeah, I think as women, we, especially when we're moms, we're homemakers, we are overachievers. We really place a lot of importance on caring for others, and we don't always take the time to care for ourselves. And what happens is we don't bring then our best selves to our children and our husbands and our work environment. And so I think it's really important as women that we realize that you don't need to meet everybody else's expectations to be the perfect mom, to be, they have the perfect house decorations for Christmas, or, I was just telling Desiree before we hit record, I was like, I don't do any of that. I was like, I booked a beach vacation. Like I don't worry about, decorating perfectly for the holidays or anything like that. I just live my best life and try to bring my best self. We can't pour from an empty cup. So, try to bring your best self to the people that you love.
That's excellent advice. I love it. Amy, thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate you being here with us and sharing so much great information and knowledge. If somebody had any questions, how would they be able to reach you?
Yeah, sure. They can visit me anytime at amzathome.com. That is our website for consulting and events and all that kind of fun stuff. And then, of course, you can find me on LinkedIn, Amy Weiss. And we do have a Facebook group. If you're an Amazon seller or you're an e-commerce entrepreneur and you want to connect with others, we have a Facebook group called Amazing at Home. So you can check that out and join us there.
Awesome. Thank you again, Amy. I so appreciate you being on the show, and have a great day.
Thank you.